So about 2 years ago, I did a video on the Tribeca display being dim. So in that video, I did show a little bit of detail about removing the display from the Tribeca. We got it on the bench and we showed a little bit of detail about taking it apart and some of the issues that could have been causing my dim display. I even showed my solder joints looking kind of rough, and I did take time to go over the solder joints, and I really didn't take a lot of time, just kind of a side note really that was one thing I'd done. The whole purpose of this video was trying to get my dim display back going. I really didn't contribute the solder joints to that, but done it while I had it apart, obviously. It wasn't that uncommon to have bad solder joints on vehicle parts and connectors really. So I showed putting this back together, and I ended up getting one used because my LCD was bad. But then I started getting these error messages on my display. So you see ER for outside temperature and trip average and things of that nature and your gas mileage. Another thing to note is your clock won't stay reset. At least that's what happened to mine. The clock would need to be reset often, and ended up getting I really had to reset the clock about every time we got in it, and the error messages got worse. So my display looked a lot like this one, and when I was searching for this to see if it was an issue for other people, I come across not only this image, but this image that came from SB9T. And once I realized that a good many people were looking for help with a similar issue, I did at least join that forum and add that I did have a video about the solder joints. And since I also have some viewers asking about fixing the error on theirs, I thought I would just do this video as I take mine apart and show in more detail and even under the microscope what the solder joints look like, because I barely touched on it on the previous video since it was not my focus. I do now realize this is an area we need to focus on for especially these errors and the clock not staying reset. So most of this video is going to actually be under the microscope. As you can see, I got mine apart. If you want more detail on that, I do share more about that in that previous video about the dim display. So under the microscope here, if we get focused in, you can see these solder joints do look really rough and a lot worse than my previous board, honestly. A lot of leftover flux from the factory apparently still on this one. As we get over to this right side here, the way I have it under the scope, you can tell we got some really rough looking joints here. And I do believe this is the power side because we have thicker traces in the top. I would say maybe the positive where two are together, and the bottom one on the bottom right here it also has a thicker trace or thicker pad. So you can definitely see the cracks on these. I think they all have hairline cracks or minor cracks, and these 2 or 3 here on the right are definitely worse than the others. As you can see, this one here is very profound. You can see how any movement would separate that joint where it's cracked. And I would think this bottom one here is probably the negative, and that's probably the main culprit on this one. Even though this top one does look worse, it has 2 solder joints for what I'm calling a positive connection, and this negative here is probably what's losing from time to time. So the first thing I'm going to do is bring over some good high quality flux, either RA flux or 559 is probably my favorite. So this is AMTECH 559 flux. I'm going to put it all over the board and use a good bit of it. We want this to puddle up really good. And I'm just going to show here a very minimal fix. So please don't comment below that the solder should be removed. I'm going to tell you here that I do fully recommend removing the solder using Wick or solder sucker. I think that is an absolute and no-brainer. I'm just showing here that at the very least you can take some high quality flux and some good leaded solder and you can refresh these joints, and I'm just going to show you how good you can do, because a lot of viewers are thinking they can't do this themselves, and the whole point of this part here of the video is to show you how easy this is with some flux. I'm adding a good bit of leaded solder onto the pads. So again, if you're able to wick off some of the solder or use your solder vacuum to pull it off and put all new fresh solder with flux, it's absolutely better than this. But hey, if you're out there and you want to know what you can do just to get by and get this back working and possibly get years of more life out of the display, fresh flux and fresh solder will get you a long way. As you see here, sometimes I will have some bridging from time to time, and the flux here being built up just makes that super easy to pull over as you put the heat back on one pin and just draw it over. But flux really helps with impurities here, and the fresh solder just makes the joint fresh and shiny again, and it just leaves us with a really good and shiny connection. And it's nothing to it. It is just that easy, and flux is your friend. I'm just going to use some 91% alcohol here and a Q-tip and start cleaning a lot of this flux up. Going to use a brush here too to clean it up even better. A lot of this is flux and impurities out of that old flux as well, and that's looking pretty good. Hope you can see the difference there under the microscope. That is 100% better. So at the very least, guys, if you just buy you some good quality flux and some good leaded solder, all you need to solder an iron in a few minutes, and then to get it back working. This has been 2 months, so I did wait quite a while to post this video. I wanted to make sure that it absolutely fixed mine before I said that I thought it did. So mine has given no more issues, and we have been on a long trip with the Tribeca and back, so I am 100% certain that was my issue. So if you're losing time on your display and having those error codes, I hope this helps you out as well, and you found the video helpful. If you did, please like, share, and subscribe. I'm going to have some links down in the video description of a lot of the tools and things that I find helpful on my workbench, especially the soldering iron that I used in the tip, the flux. I'll also have some links down there for the solder if you're interested. Any of these links you click on are affiliate links and to help support the channel, and I greatly appreciate it. So thanks so much for watching, and God bless.